This short video is going to provide you with an introduction to some strategies you can use to help you approach your reading at university. It can sometimes feel like you've got too much to read, and if this is the case, you need to look at the approaches that you're using so that you can target your reading most effectively. You need to decide what your purpose is when reading, and if there are any particular questions you're hoping a text that you're reading will help you to answer. In doing this, you can come up with the most effective approach to your reading so that it doesn't feel overwhelming and it doesn't feel like you've got too much reading to do. There are lots of different reading approaches that can be useful to use at university to help you target your reading most effectively. This video will introduce you to 3 reading approaches. The first reading approach is known as skim reading, and then this is when you quickly move across the surface of a text, like the dolphin here bobbing across the top of the water. The second strategy is scanning. This is when you use techniques to help you find what you need within a text quickly and efficiently. So that's like a shark ripping through water. The third strategy is in-depth reading. There'll be times when you really need to immerse yourself and read a text in detail, like the whale here plunging into the depths of the ocean. So this video will introduce you to skim reading, scanning, and in-depth reading techniques. Let's spend some more time now thinking about skim reading. So, as I mentioned earlier, skim reading is a rapid reading technique. It's like the dolphin here bobbing across the surface of an ocean. It's a technique which you can use to get the meaning or the central idea out of a text. The key thing is to move rapidly over the text. You might use your finger or a pen or a pointer to help you move across the text. Using a pointer helps you to stop your eyes getting tired. It's really important to try and take in more than one word at a time, and often we can force ourselves to speed up when reading. This approach means that we'll understand less, but that's okay. Skim reading is all about getting the general gist, that is the general idea of a text. When the words become more relevant to our particular aims or particular questions we'd like to answer, we can then slow down and take some notes. Let's do a short task now to help you think about how you can use skim reading and when it might be beneficial. On the next slide in this video, there is a text. I'd like you to have a go at reading it all. You'll probably need to pause the presentation so that you can do this. So have a go at reading that text, and then once you've read it, restart this video and I'll introduce the next part of the task. So here is the text for you to read. You might like to pause the presentation. Hopefully you've completed the first part of this task. If not, go back and complete it before we start part 2. So you had a go at reading that full text, word by word. What I'd now like you to do is have a go at reading only the bits marked in blue, which is shown on the next slide. This task will therefore introduce you to skim reading and how you might approach it. So here's the text that I'd like you to read now. So again, you might need to pause the presentation, but read the text, and this time only read those bits marked in dark blue, those bits that are marked in bold. So, how did you get on with reading the bits marked in bold and in blue? Here's some thoughts that I had. Although you don't get as much information from the marked bits, you do get the basic meaning, the general gist of the text. So the key thing to ask yourself is, when might that be enough? When might you need to go deeper? When might you need to engage in more in-depth reading? And again, it's important to ask these questions when reading, because these will help you to read efficiently and effectively and to get the most from your academic reading. Right, let's turn now to look at another reading approach. Let's look at scanning. You'll remember that I said scanning is a bit like a shark ripping throughout water very quickly. Scanning is all about using the clues that a text has given you, using those clues so that you can read quickly and efficiently. You might start by reading the abstract or the summary of a text. Lots of texts have these. And what they provide is an overall summary of a text. So you can use these to see if a text seems relevant to your purpose or to any particular questions that you've got. You might then turn to look at any headings, any different sections, any images or diagrams, and you can use this information as clues for parts of the text that might be most relevant to your needs. Look for keywords in the text, and here you'll bring in your skim reading approaches to rapidly read over key sections to find the most important pieces of information for your work. Scanning is all about using the clues provided within a text to get a clear picture of what is happening and which sections are most relevant to you. So scanning is an approach that can help you to read strategically and most effectively so you can get the most relevant information from an academic text for your particular purpose. The final strategy that I mentioned is in-depth reading. So this is like the whale taking a deep plunge into the depths of the ocean. There may be times where you need very precise information or very specific wording that you need to read. You might need to carefully examine a particular argument, a particular piece of evidence, ideas, or conclusions. So when you're doing this, you need to think about what you're reading, think about the kind of notes that you want to take, and also reflect critically on the information. And that idea of criticality will be discussed later in an additional intensive within this RISE package. So remember that the key for reading at university is active reading. It's important to actively engage with a text. Don't just open a text and read it from cover to cover, but think about what questions you've got, think about what you want to get from a text, and use that to select the most appropriate strategies, whether that's skim reading, scanning, or that in-depth reading.